So very important judgment today at the Supreme Court. While it has not struck down any other restriction in Jammu and Kashmir, including the 5-month-long now internet shutdown, it has, however, laid down the law on how such restrictions in a state are to be assessed. So what the Supreme Court today, they were having to answer the question of whether the restrictions in Kashmir, whether it's the internet shutdowns using the telecom suspension rules, or whether it was the Section 144 orders imposed all across the state, whether those measures taken by the government, the centre and the Jammu and Kashmir government, which is obviously under the control of the centre, whether those measures were legal. Now, what the court today has done is, it is the bench of Justice N.V. Ramana, Subhash Reddy and B.R. Gavai, they have not struck down or dealt with any of the actual orders themselves and whether those were illegal. But what they've said is that here is the law for how you assess certain things, and then on the basis of that you can now go and challenge a lot of these orders, and to facilitate that they've given certain instructions. So let's see what they've done. They first said that, look, when it comes, and this is a huge development, they've said, look, when it comes to the right to freedom of expression, usage of the internet for this is part of your fundamental right to freedom of expression under Article 19(1) of the Constitution. And that means that any restrictions on your right to freedom of expression using the internet have to be assessed and have to satisfy the same test as any other reasonable restrictions which would otherwise be imposed. So you can't just say that, oh, because it's the internet is not an integral part of your right to freedom of expression, so while the restrictions we impose on it can be of a lower standard. We can put a blanket restriction on the internet, and this does not violate the right to freedom of expression as, say, a blanket prohibition on speech would do. So what this is important is it puts that right to the usage of the internet is at the same pedestal, the same level as freedom of expression in general, and that has obviously very important connotations going forward. The next thing which the judgment says, it says that all the orders, whether it's the Section 144 orders or the internet shutdown orders which were passed, all of these have to now be published and made publicly available so that they can be challenged using the law. Now, they've also, in addition to this aspect of the internet shutdown rules, they've also said, look, here's the look at the internet shutdown rules. It says that these are for temporary reasons. They cannot be an indefinite internet shutdown. So, like, for instance, what you're seeing, Kashmir, is all these orders are indefinitely extending the internet shutdown there rather than being on a temporary period. And they've said that this has to therefore be reviewed on a periodic basis by the review committees as required by law. And that needs to be, the first review has to be done within 7 days of this judgment by the administration. So that's a big thing by the review committees. They are going to have to review all those internet shutdowns. The next thing which they've said is that Section 144 cannot be used just sort of on the basis of a mere suspicion. It can't just be used when the government, yes, it can be used obviously when there is an apprehension of danger, but there has to be some actual evidence for that. Now, the thing is that the Section 144 was used to pretty much lock down Kashmir for a long while. Now, those orders are no longer technically enforced. So essentially any challenge to those orders is infructuous. But what the court has said, which is very important, is that any such orders, whether it's the old ones or even any orders across the country under Section 144 which come up now, will have to be made publicly available, will have to be published so that people can go and challenge them. So a lot of important things here. Unfortunately, the court has not gone into the question of whether any of the orders here, which actually have already taken place in Kashmir, were illegal, but they have now laid the groundwork for these to be challenged. They've emphasized the importance of the test of proportionality, which requires there to be the measure taken by the government to restrict fundamental freedoms to be the least restrictive, to be the one which is the most beneficial in this case, and there must not be another option which could actually achieve the same objective without intruding so much on people's rights. They've insisted that, for instance, when it comes to 144 orders, they can't be sort of blanketly imposed across the state. It has to be on a territorial basis. For internet shutdowns, they said they can't be indefinite. So all of these are grounds, in fact, to challenge the internet shutdown, for instance, in Kashmir, in the High Court there now. People there will be able to say, look, if the review committee doesn't actually conduct a review and have any good reasons for continuing the internet shutdowns, those orders are therefore illegal and therefore need to be struck down. Any other internet shutdown anywhere else in the country can be tested on this basis. The Section 144 orders which were imposed in Kashmir can also be challenged, but as we said, that's sort of an infructuous thing. But anything going forward, any restriction imposed in Kashmir going forward will now be have to be published, that they can be challenged and can be argued to be by the public if necessary to be illegal and to be disproportionate. So it's a mixed bag of a judgment. On the one hand, the government gets the fact that none of their orders have been termed illegal. On the other hand, it allows people to now have a clear set of rules and laws which on the basis of which they can challenge orders. So that's obviously the big thing to see going forward, is whether or not the laws set down in this judgment will be used to challenge things going forward.